Hey guys, welcome to the Wheel to Wheel, I guess episode number 3, if you will call it, for the Toyota Cup here in 2024. Just going to kind of go through one of the races that I just did here this past weekend. It was in the Mazda RX Vision GT3 concept, and it was against some pretty stellar competition that did really well. Some of these drivers here are esports drivers. I'm in the North America region, and so a lot of these drivers are top notch in terms of their skill in the A plus and S category in terms of drive rating and safety rating. So yeah, I'll kind of go through kind of some of the highlights of the race, as well as some of the not so great stuff, things that I learned, and everything in between. So without further ado, let's get into it. All right, so as you can see here, we're kind of starting around seventh out of the 15 drivers or so, and one of the biggest things with this one is usually I qualify generally around 10th, so I was pretty happy with this level of strength. I think for winner in this race was to get about 396 points, so the field strength was definitely high in this race. Pretty happy with 7th in terms of, matching around Lester's pace as well, the guy in 5th right there. So we go ahead and we start, the race. And one of the first things, I wanted to do is just maintain kind of the brakes, the tires, and make sure, as we kind of progressed into this race, that, tire life was going to be a key thing. And so maintaining that was essential. And so, I got the jump right there on Pedro for 6th. Now, the brake bias setting I was using in this car particularly was all the way +5. So +5 being the max to the rear, which in hindsight now probably shouldn't have done. I used that in qualifying in some of the practice races leading up to this race with the same kind of fuel settings, and it felt good. So I didn't really know why I was kind of struggling, but as you'll see here in the laps here ahead, started losing some pace there due to that setting. And the goal was to kind of also keep up with these first, 4 or 5 cars in the lead pack, so that I could benefit off the draft while breaking away from the guys behind. There was an incident behind, so if you scroll down, actually, I'm just gonna show it right here, and it was Pedro actually who just got turned. So you're on board with him here. Just got turned very unfortunately, and went all the way back to last place, but kept it going, no damage. But yeah, very unfortunate there for him. You can see this gaggle of cars here just absolutely fighting for every bit of position. On lap 1, I know you can usually try and make up spots as much as possible, but in something like this, in terms of a series where the car is being car I would say is more heavily based on momentum racing, so you could lose a lot of time when fighting for a position with other cars next to you, rather than keeping in a straight line, as you can see these first few cars doing pretty successfully. Just trying to find my rhythm. You can see the tire wear already starting to kick in at the bottom left there. If you compare it to some of the other drivers, it's pretty much about the same. A little bit of difference there between Lester and Windfire. And then, I was happy to report that my tire life was better than some of the competition around me, especially in these first few laps. But as you'll see later on in the race, it did tend to fall off a little bit more than I'd expected. Hence why I should have probably switched, a little bit more of that brake bias to the front, so it would have helped me still with stopping power. Sure, it might have accelerated the maybe the tire wear a little bit quicker, but I think for the performance trade-off, it was probably worth. See, Lester is now losing ground to these first few cars here. Not much, but he had a great race in this race as well. So was happy for him to kind of come through as the other Canadian in the field. I think there's one of 4 Canadians in the field, myself included, so good to represent. As you can see here, the battle for third's kind of spicy here a little bit. Already on lap 3, and Cross is all over Windfire. And Cross is another quick driver. I don't know too much about him, but I believe he is pretty quick, along with Haywood there in second and McCabe as well in first. So, yeah, he's pretty quick as well. So you can see they kind of settled into rhythm, and the first two are kind of pulling away at this point now, which is the right move to make in the sense of just, kind of staying nip and tuck behind one another, just to, again, maximize the draft as much as possible, when especially coming onto this long straight here. So now there's about the gap here is about a second and a bit now to third. So these first two are probably thinking, you know what, let's keep pushing for another few laps, then we can kind of battle it ourselves, which is a smart decision in my opinion. So this is what I mean by the brake balance settings. When comparing against these guys here, they're braking much later and trail braking into these corners at a much more efficient rate than what I was able to do. And if you see with my onboard here, we're now about two and a half seconds, adrift from Lester. So still not a bad pace, whereas the guy behind is about a second and a bit behind. But as you'll see now, it's only lap 4, but around lap 6, 7, 8, the wear on the tires really starts impacting a lot of the performance that I felt that I could have had if I had, adjusted the brake balance forward a bit and therefore braked a little bit later and used up a little bit more tire life, but performance-wise would have kept up with some of these guys. So into this corner, for example, so, braking a little bit deeper, and that's where this guy here in the back, this Nissan GTR individual is able to catch me a lot, and you'll see that in the coming laps here. If you ride on board with him, he's just able to brake that much later into the corner, right there being an example again, where he's just able to just get in that much deeper while maintaining good corner entry as well as middle corner apex speed, and then a little bit of sacrifice on the end, but because he does have that draft from me, I feel like that is something that he is definitely benefiting from. I think 5th was a very good outcome if that was the case. So right here again, braking a little bit earlier, and look at how much deeper the Nissan driver can get. So just showing you the onboard here. So you can see here in the Honda NSX, just able to kind of ride those curbs a little bit better, trail braking again a little bit better, and like at this point he is now on me, as you can see. Outlaw is a little bit further back, about 2 seconds back, but now this man's here, and at this point, I can tell that he's probably a little bit quicker. In hindsight, maybe I should have let him go and maintain my own race. That's where some of the racing maturity probably comes into play, and racing IQ comes into play, because, battling him, you tend to lose a lot of ground to these guys here that are in 8th, 9th, 10th, and 11th. They were quite close group. As you can see, I take a little bit of a tighter line into that corner, and the exit was therefore a bit sacrificed, but I didn't lose too much ground. But at this point I know he's there, obviously, and he's gone wide a little bit there, but no harm, no foul. He's still within touching distance at this point. I'm just trying to keep it smooth, but look at the tire wear again. Like he's used up a little bit more tire, but he is maximizing that performance while doing that. It's not like he's just burning the rubber and not getting anywhere, whereas I'm saving tires, but I've essentially lost out to the front few cars at this point. So you can see here, he is now right over the bumper. At this point, I should probably let him by, which he'll go for it here. And I do kind of let him by, and I'll kind of just settle in 7th, so right where I started. And again, Outlaw is, you can see his recent lap time here, 1:39.35, whereas my lap time is 1:39.7. So now 1:39.6. So we're lapping about the same pace at this point. I should have literally, you know, at this point, I'm just going deep and racing against. I don't know why I'm racing him that hard, knowing what I know now. Of course, it's good to look at things in hindsight, but I'm just losing so much time by fighting him, knowing that, you know, yeah, he has the quicker car right now. Just let him go. So at this point, we're again 2.5 seconds clear of Outlaw here. But as I'm taking a look here now, you know, this battle was actually pretty exciting to be a part of. I thought we, you know, gave each other some space, and again, I went a little deep here, and look how much time I lose. Look at how much time I literally lose because I've gone deep and I've gained absolutely nothing, and I've cost him too. Look at that. That gap is now a second, all because of that braking underneath and going deep. Look at this. Look at these guys. Oh my goodness, they're nose and tail. Santiago I've raced a few times with as well. He's pretty good as well. Same with Wheaties. I will owe them apologies later in this race because I did, you know, unintentionally make contact with them later in the race. But we'll get to that here, I guess, in a little bit. So as you can see now, Nissan drivers pulling away a little bit. At this point, to second, and it's also second behind. So at this point, I should have probably stayed a little bit calmer and not been over rash on trying to get back that 6th place position. I think I should have, you know, had a smoother race in that sense. We're approaching almost the halfway point of the race, and you can see the gap's pretty much about the same from 6, 7, 8. And so, yeah, my goal was to, again, try and stay steady, but stay composed, which towards this end of the race in the second stint, you know, unfortunately, I didn't have that same composure that I did in this part of the race. But again, lesson learned, and we'll move on to the next few races against this type of competition and be better. And we're just going to kind of go through the front. As you can see, Lester is kind of caught now across. This battle here is for 4th position, obviously. Cross doing a pretty good job here maintaining pace. As you can see, their tire life is actually a lot lower than mine, but their pace is just so much quicker, so it's not really like, you know, they're losing out in that sense. Wildfire as well, tire life is pretty good. And then McCabe and Haywood, and Haywood did make a pass actually for the lead. I guess he decided it was go time, and he made the pass here, I think, a lap or two ago. But yeah, essentially, if you notice, their formation again is pretty nip it and tuck, with Wildfire as well in 3rd. So the first 3 really are pulling away from 4th and 5th. Kind of go back here now to this battle in 4th, and Lester is now kind of caught Cross. So if you look at tire life, Cross is struggling now a little bit more on tire wear, and I think that's definitely coming into play, because if you see here, I was catching as well Nissan driver. Keep in mind, the brake bias is still set at 5. It was set at 5 the entire race. I hadn't changed it, so all the pressure was at the rear of the car for the braking. But you can see here, tire life is massively different. That left rear for the Nissan driver is a lot lower than my left rear, and we're approaching in the halfway point. So at this point, I look pretty confident that I could, you know, get by him and retain the 6th place. And I was also pulling away from Santiago a little bit too, even though we had similar tire wear. I slid a little bit there, locked up a little bit, and as you can see again, sliding is the Nissan driver. And what I should have probably done is stayed out just 1 extra lap. I think I pitted on this lap actually and followed kind of the Honda NSX man here into the pits, as well as, you know, Santiago came. This was kind of where I made the first of a few errors in this race. You know, it was a little oversteer. As you can see, he probably senses, you know, tire life is going down. Oh, it wasn't this lap. I guess it was the next lap. So right at the halfway point, lap 12 in front. And at the end of this lap, the three of us come into pit. Now, the problem is when I do come into pit, I actually make contact with the wall because I didn't realize how much I actually had to brake. So rule to self. Learn how to practice at least a little bit braking into the corner. So you see there, I lost a lot of time. I lost a spot there, and the second mistake was I didn't realize I didn't really have to fuel. I could go to the end, so I fueled for like a second because I thought it'd be very close to the end of the race on fuel. So I lost. I ended up losing another spot than I should have, whereas the other guys, they already knew, were smart enough, I guess, and didn't fuel at all. So as you see here, I come out 9th, so I lost net 2 positions. Exiting the pits, and 10th is Wheaties here, so on board here. Just take a look now, as you see 3rd place man Windfire is now catching McCabe and Haywood. So he's made up some ground, but the first 3 are pretty evenly separated here for about a 1 second gap between each. Cross, why we're down that low, but yeah, 4th and 5th were in their own battle. 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, and 10th. So, basically 6th onwards. 6th that pulled a gap, but 7th to 10th was relatively close. So at this point, I've gained a little bit of ground on Wheaties. As you can see, I posted a 1:38.7, which is my quickest lap. A good 6 tenths behind leader. Pace. Look at that. My goodness, that's a sight to see coming at you in the rear view mirror in terms of the depth of how fast he closes on braking. You can see here, just clipping the curb. It is a little bit of a distraction, not gonna lie. Even though I wasn't looking in the mirror, the yellow from the peripheral vision, you can kind of see, look at that, he's just all over. And at this point, he's gonna try to make a move, and he goes for it, and he makes the move. And nice pass to him. He does a beautiful pass into that corner. Now this is where I tried to get him back, and again, misjudged how far I can go, and I made contact again, that same corner, and so I've let him go now at this point, but now look at this, I've lost ground again to this man. They really don't have anything to really worry about behind them, so it makes sense for, the 3 to kind of figure out, almost if you're if you're playing chess, what would be the next move? Where am I catching the guy? Where am I losing ground to the guy in the braking zone, for example? Which turns am I gaining? These are all things that play in a driver's mind as you're coming to, especially this point in the race where laps are winding down. You don't really have a ton of pressure now from any additional drivers. So you're really now trying to pay attention to those things. As you can see, McCabe's gone very defensive, and Windfire's just gone right around the outside, but again, a little bit too deep into that braking zone. So yeah, wasn't able to complete the pass. So Spider Punk's there. So yeah, we're just going to ride these last few laps here. As you can see, I'm just going to forward a little bit. So you can see the braking, closing speed that he has. So it's gone a little wide. That's not going to help his tires at all. One thing I will say is I've learned to kind of drive in a much smoother manner while building up my experience here to get to this point. I used to be a little bit more aggressive in my early stages of sim racing. Yeah, I've been doing sim racing for a while now. I've done multiple sim races on different titles such as iRacing, R Factor. So I used to definitely be a little bit more aggressive, but I've learned to, especially with these GT type cars, you want to be a little bit more smoother compared to open wheel cars, and carry the momentum through the corners is key. To maximize not only your lap time, but your tire wear as well. And then again, this part of the track is where I'm losing a ton of ground just by brake. And I've gone deep I don't know why I did that, but I give the spot back. I give both places actually. I don't know why I was doing that. I didn't feel like I needed to do that. I just really struggling with my braking points in this race, and I felt really bad that again I've cost Spider-Punk in this sense, position. So in the last lap, I didn't even bother passing him again. I I just basically tried and pushed him to see if we can get by Pedro. So as you can see here, I just like try to bump draft him just to kind of show that like, look, and I backed off way early, but he's gone too deep. That was the problem, and I didn't try to pass him back again. So fast forwarding here, this was kind of the last straw, if you will. I am closer in this sense, but I tried to make the move, but I just went too deep again. I don't understand why I'm struggling this much on brakes. I haven't been this bad in a while. So got my 2-second penalty, which is fair, deserved. Horrendous outcome to the race, considering the first stints prior to pit stops was not bad. I think there are a lot of good takeaways to take away from this race, but just very unfortunate that the way it ended. It ended the way it did basically. So finished 13th. Definitely not the outcome I wanted. Congrats to Haywood, McCabe, these three, and Windfire for the first 3 positions. And yeah, we'll go on into the next race here. I think we'll try to do either a Nations Cup race or some online races, but at least for next tournament, I'll be more prepared. I think pros in this race were definitely the qualifying pace was good, not bad. Starting 7th, I think 5th was doable, and then the opening first stint, managing the tire wear, um, going through, and also keeping up with the first few cars for the first little bit, first 6-7 laps, I thought was a positive to take away from the race. Um, yeah, cons definitely the ending, last 6-7 laps, just letting my emotions sometimes I would assume just get the better of me. I usually don't mess up my braking points like that horrendously. Um, so yeah, just kind of be mindful of that for the future races. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed that race recap, and stay tuned for more further racing action. Thanks.